I told my fiancée I was cut out of the family business. But it was a plan to expose her gold digger mask. I'm 28. I find myself looking back on how I narrowly escaped marrying someone who saw me as nothing more than a path to wealth. It's still painful to talk about, but maybe sharing my experience will help others avoid the same trap. Growing up in my family's business wasn't like you see in movies. No silver spoons or entitled attitudes. Despite our success, my parents made sure my brother Paul and I understood the value of hard work. Our father built his multi-million-dollar enterprise from scratch, teaching us that true wealth comes from dedication, not inheritance. Even as a kid working summers at our company's warehouses, sweeping floors and learning the basics, a multi-million-dollar enterprise my father built from the ground up. My brother Paul and I were always told we'd inherit major shares one day, but I never made a big deal about it. Maybe that was naive, but I genuinely believed I could find someone who'd love me for who I was, not what I stood to inherit. Then I met Irene. She was stunning and sophisticated, with expensive taste that I didn't mind indulging. She always picked the finest restaurants and loved weekend getaways at luxury resorts. I thought nothing of it when she used my credit card. I wanted to be a good partner, and her confidence seemed to match our lifestyle perfectly. But Paul, just a year older than me, saw something I didn't. He started dropping hints that made me uncomfortable. "Don't you think she asks too many questions about the business?" he'd say. Or, "Are you sure she's with you for the right reasons?" I brushed him off, accusing him of being overprotective or paranoid. The red flags were there, though. Irene's questions about the business became increasingly specific. What exactly will your stake be when you inherit? Are you guaranteed to become CEO when your father retires? Still, I convinced myself she was just interested in our future stability. Then one evening, Paul cornered me in our family's den. "We need to test her," he said bluntly. I immediately bristled. "Test her? That's manipulative." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, I'm only suggesting this because the signs are glaring. Let's see if she's with you, or for the inheritance. If she's genuine, great. You can rest easy. But if she's not," he let the sentence hang there. After a week of internal debate, I finally agreed. The plan was simple, but effective. I'd tell her I was adopted and had been cut out of most of the inheritance. My brother would be the primary heir, leaving me with just a modest trust fund, nothing close to the millions everyone assumed I'd get. So one afternoon, while we were relaxing on my couch, I dropped the bomb. "I need to tell you something," I said, trying to sound devastated. "I just found out I'm adopted, and Dad's decided Paul will inherit most of the company. I'll only get a small portion, barely enough to live comfortably if I slack off." The change in her expression was subtle but unmistakable. She froze, her brow furrowing. "Wait, so you're not getting the big share? They can't just cut you out like that, can they?" I shook my head. We had a long discussion about it. We fought, but Dad thinks his biological son should run everything. No multi-million safety net for me. Maybe just some small consulting role, if anything. She tried to mask her disappointment with a weak smile, gave me a mechanical half-hug. "Well, that's surprising. Are you okay?" My heart sank. I'd hoped she wouldn't care about the money, but her reaction felt forced, rehearsed. 2 days later, Paul showed me something that confirmed our worst suspicions. Irene had reached out to him, first pretending to be concerned about me, then gradually shifting to flirtation. She praised his business acumen, his responsibility. Odd compliments considering she'd barely spoken to him before. We decided to push further. Paul would respond to her flirtations, see how far she'd go. It felt wrong, like a betrayal of trust, but I needed to know the truth. The evidence came quickly and decisively. Over the next few days, her messages to Paul grew increasingly bold. It started innocently enough, asking about his day, sharing articles about business leadership. Then came the compliments. "You're so different from your younger brother," she texted. "More mature, more focused on the future. I wish we'd spent more time together before." Each message was carefully crafted, sprinkled with emojis and subtle hints. She'd send photos of herself at expensive restaurants, saying things like, "This place made me think of you. We should come here sometime." Then the coffee invitation came. Just us two. "We have so much to discuss about the future of the company." Paul showed me every message, each one making me feel more sick to my stomach. My brother and I sat in his office, reading her messages with growing disgust. "She's not even subtle," Paul muttered. "This is borderline seduction." The final nail in the coffin was when she wrote, "Your brother doesn't have the resources I expected. I can't tie my future to that." That line hit me like a physical blow. The woman I'd planned to marry was coldly calculating her next move, pivoting to my brother the moment she thought I wasn't wealthy enough. Paul squeezed my shoulder. "I'm sorry, bro. Let's finish this. Gather more evidence, then confront her where she can't spin the story." We set up an elaborate trap. Paul invited her to his condo to discuss the business. She responded eagerly, "I'll wear something nice for you." We planted an audio device in the living room, and I waited in an adjacent room with my phone camera ready. The setup felt ridiculous, like something from a spy movie, but we needed irrefutable proof. When she arrived at Paul's condo, my heart nearly stopped. She was wearing a tight black cocktail dress that would have been more appropriate for a high-end nightclub than a business discussion. Her makeup was perfect, hairstyled immaculately. She'd clearly spent hours preparing for this casual meeting. I watched through the crack in the door as she gracefully settled onto Paul's couch, perfectly positioned to show off her outfit to best advantage. The conversation started with the usual pleasantries: how the business was doing, recent market trends, family matters. But I noticed how she kept finding excuses to touch Paul's arm, to laugh at his comments, to lean in just a little too close. After about 20 minutes of this dance, she made her move. "You know," she purred, sliding closer until their knees were almost touching, "I've been thinking a lot about the future lately. About potential partnerships." She traced a finger along the edge of her wine glass. "You and I could make a real power couple. The heir to the company, and someone who truly understands his vision. Imagine what we could do together, with all the inheritance at your fingertips." The calculation in her voice made my skin crawl. This was the woman I'd planned to spend my life with. And here she was, practically auditioning for the role of trophy wife too, whichever brother had the bigger bank account. "But what about my brother?" Paul asked. "Aren't you engaged?" She scoffed. "He's sweet, but let's be real. No big inheritance, no real ambition. A loser, basically." My fists clenched as I recorded everything. She slid closer, touching Paul's shoulder. "I'm sure we can work out a private arrangement," she whispered, leaning in for a kiss. Paul excused himself to the kitchen, and shortly after, she left. We had everything we needed. The final act played out at my father's birthday celebration, a lavish family reunion at our estate. Irene's parents were there, proud of their daughter's prestigious match. She wore a designer dress I'd bought her, completely unaware of what was coming. After dinner, during the speeches, Paul stepped forward. "I have something important to share," he announced. "It concerns my brother's fiancée and the truth of her intentions." The room fell silent as the truth came out. I watched my fiancée's face drain of color while my brother calmly held up his phone, showing the evidence of her messages. "I can explain," she stammered, looking frantically between me and my family. "Paul," he pursued me. "He's lying to break us up." My brother didn't flinch. "We have the recordings, your texts, your own words." Seeing her first excuse crumble, she switched tactics. "They manipulated me. Paul said he was adopted, that he wasn't really part of the family." Her parents' faces twisted with dismay. "Is this true?" her mother whispered. "After everything you told us about loving him?" "I do love him," she protested, but her voice wavered. "I was just confused. They pressured me." My father cut through her excuses. "Did you or did you not call my son a loser? Did you try to pursue his brother for his inheritance?" Tears welled in her eyes. It was a moment of weakness. "I was worried about our future." Then my brother delivered the final blow. There was never any change to the inheritance. My brother's not adopted. This was a test, and you failed. The silence in the room was deafening. Her mother's face flushed red with shame. We didn't raise you for this, she hissed. You swore this was about love. When she turned to me, tears streaming down her face, I felt a dull ache in my chest. Please, she begged, we can fix this. But I remembered her mocking words, her attempts to seduce my brother. No, I said quietly. We can't. In a last, desperate attempt. I'm pregnant. I don't know if it's yours or Paul's, my brother scoffed. We never slept together. You only started flirting with me last month. If the child is mine, I'll take responsibility, I said firmly. If it's not, I'll press charges for fraud. Her parents, unable to bear any more humiliation, practically dragged her from the room. As they left, I heard her father muttering apologies while she sobbed. The party tried to resume, but an uncomfortable tension lingered. My father apologized to the guests while I stood in a corner, still processing what had happened. My brother came over and squeezed my shoulder. You deserve better, he said simply. Later she bombarded me with texts. I'm sorry, I panicked. My parents disowned me. I have nowhere to go. Please, help me. I ignored them all. She tried calling Paul too, claiming she'd been tricked, but he blocked her number. My father assured me she had no legal claim to anything. No marriage had occurred, no prenup was signed. A month later, we heard she was couch surfing, jobless and cut off from her family. Part of me felt a twinge of pity, but then I remembered her calling me a loser, trying to seduce my brother. The pity evaporated. The whole experience taught me how money can corrupt relationships. She wasn't content with a normal life, or believing in my capabilities. She wanted guaranteed wealth, regardless of which brother provided it. Her greed and sense of entitlement led to her downfall. I'm thankful for Paul's insight and our close relationship. We continue running the family business together, stronger for having exposed a potential disaster before it was too late. As for Irene, she has no one to blame but herself for burning every bridge she had. My life is simpler now, free from deception and manipulation. Sometimes the best lessons come from our closest calls.